We have today just a task before us where we're trying to get everybody squared away on exactly how to correct the invoices, the invoice problems that James has been sending over to us. Everybody's been going about and trying to do the best they can, and we've realized that we're not really clearly stating exactly what processes need to be done. So in order to help us clarify this, I've got James Stevens on the line with us today, along with Ed Cunnard, and we're going to talk a bit about exactly what it is that you need to be doing with the files that James is sending every week. Hey, James, how's it going?
Good. Hey, everybody. Like to start off with thank you for tuning in, and thank you for getting back to me whenever you do handle these issues. I just wanted to give you a grounds to know where to start when you try to resolve some of these issues. I understand that the information I'm sending you can be confusing. I just want to start off with the data entry in our Q4 part. That seems to be where a lot of our issues are generated. We have a system where we import a contract where we can sell devices or accessories, and ATI audits that system. Along the way, if information gets corrupted or changed or is incorrect, their system can't accurately pull information from our system. And I'd like to start with making sure whenever we're selling things, you're using correct information for the customer's information, for their phone number, for their contract number. You make sure that the IMEI of the device you're selling and the device you have on your contract matches. I feel like if we can limit the issues we have with clerical errors, we can really negate or get rid of a lot of the issues that I ask your help with throughout the month. The number one biggest one being, whenever you enter a sale, if the contract number is not exactly as the contract number appears in Omni, ATI automatically defaults to not paying us a penny. And as you guys know, on a device payment sale, especially a new phone like an iPhone or a Galaxy, that could be the difference between $1,000 commission or no commission. It could be the difference between $400 commission, $500 commission if the device model is different, if the memory amount is different. If you don't pay attention when you're ringing up the sale or adding the sale, you won't notice the red flag immediately, but at the end of the month, ATI will notice, and they'll refer back to me and say, we don't have a contract, we don't have information for this customer. So that's the biggest problem we run into, is just that whenever we're submitting information to ATI, we're submitting so much of it, and we're letting some of those things fall through the cracks. Eventually, I have to come back and ask you guys to help me find those contracts, because ATI has asked me for them, because the contracts we've provided to them aren't sufficient or aren't what they were looking for.
And
so
James,
in most
cases, isn't that corrected by making sure we're using integrated transactions? I mean,
absolutely.
Integrated transaction, as we're all supposed to be doing, then we're really not adjusting the price. We're really not adjusting the model. We're really not adjusting anything. We're doing it exactly as it's been said to be. So, I mean, that comes back to that core belief that if you do an integrated transaction, it's not only good for you, it's good for us.
Absolutely. And that will help with exchanges, which was going to be my next point. A lot of times we're selling high-end devices that I know that we can't keep in stock, like the newest iPhone and the newest Galaxy. If you're doing this process properly from start to finish, and you include the contract number when you're making the deal, and you're integrating the contract when you're getting the device in, those numbers will stay consistent and they'll match the IMEI. Whenever ATI has a question or comes back to me and asks, where is this contract or what is this number? If we have an order entry and an invoice, it's very easy for me to dispute back to them, this person paid for it this day, this is what they left with, this is how much money we'd like to be compensated for. If you're using the integrated sales and you have an issue, refunding a sale and re-ringing it through is a perfectly acceptable solution. A lot of times that will solve the problems that I have for a majority of your sales. If you notice the contract number is incorrect, but the device IMEI is the same, the customer is the same, the payment, the money they're expecting is the same, you can refund that sale and then re-ring that sale through for the same cost, and that won't negatively impact your drawer, that won't impact your commissions. It may change your commissions for the day if you don't do it correctly, And that's one thing you want to be conscious of. But if you have a simple exchange or a simple return and you reprocess that sale, it should not in any way negatively affect you. It should allow ATI to then see whatever information they were previously missing. By submitting that sale or relaying that sale, we have a chance to correct these preemptively before the month ends, before we even have to submit them off to API to look at.
And one thing I would throw in is that this process starts well before a sale even occurs. Receiving items correctly, receiving defill orders correctly, making sure that the IMEI is correct in the system will go a long way in preventing problems from occurring on the sales floor and then in the reconciliation.
And if you do everything correctly from the beginning and there is an issue and something happens, it becomes a problem, if you have done everything properly from the start, it is significantly easier for everyone to find out where down the chain we went wrong and correct it. It's not necessarily, a problem or a fault. It's something that could have went wrong in the system. An IMEI was entered one digit incorrectly. We can correct those things, but the only way to know that they're happening is if they're being done properly from the start through the finish. And that's what we're trying to get through here, is that your sales are consistent. They're done the same way every way.
Okay, so one thing to remind everybody of, when James is talking about ATI, that's actually a term for us old timers. Many of you may know it, but basically what is now known as the wireless zone, the parent company, that used to be called ATI, and a lot of us still call it by that. But whenever he says the words ATI, he's talking about the wireless zone, and those are the people that we do get our commission checks from. So James, we talked about,
our parent company,
how important it is to do things properly in the first place. And I think we've stressed that enough, and certainly can go back and talk about that later as well. But let's talk a bit about exactly how to correct some of the most common problems that you're sending out there, because I think that's something we really need to stress with folks is, we're sending you a problem, here's how to resolve them. So can you address some of those for us with us?
Absolutely. And there are only a couple of different types of problems that I've had to reach out and ask you guys about. A majority of them are for contract information. But sometimes there will be, a sale where the commission is not exactly like it's supposed to be. Or sometimes the devices will be prepaid or a month to month and the commission will have been swapped. That starts with doing the sales accurately. But if you get information back from me about a sale and I say, I don't have a record of it, can you find me a contract? What I'm talking about specifically and what I would like you to do is to find that sale, and when I send them, I'll send you an invoice number, customer name, the device, a phone number, what you're looking for. But what I'm asking of you is to look up this sale, pull the customer's invoice. When you have that invoice in the bottom left corner, down by the payment information, there is a contract number. You should start there every time. Find that contract number. Using the contract number on the invoice, you can backtrack your way to Omni. And if you find a valid contract, that is a very possible situation. I need for you to send me that contract, save it as a PDF or save it as a JPEG. Let me know in the emails, and you guys have been doing a very good job of this, is replying through the Google Sheets using the columns I leave for you. Just let me know, I looked into this customer, commissions look right to me, here's the contract for this person. And that lets me know that if ATI comes and badgers me about us not being paid, we've already seen and discussed it. We have a contract in place. I can get that over to them. That will get everyone paid, and that will get that problem resolved. That is a very possible solution. It's not unlikely that you guys will just find the contract I was unable to find. But the bigger problem is what happens whenever we don't find a contract. I feel like a lot of people don't understand how important the contract really is. Without it, we can't be paid. So if I send you information and I ask you, to verify a record or to get me a contract, to give me proof of the sale, and you look up the sale and you can't find a contract, the contract number doesn't exist, there isn't a contract generated in Omni, what that usually means is what you sold was a plan change or an ESN change or a feature change, but not necessarily an upgrade or an activation. And that's something that it can go two ways. It can be a sale where we truly are owed an activation commission, and maybe the contract number didn't get entered or the information wasn't correct. But those can also be sales where the rep entered in the wrong commission SKU in our Q4. Maybe you sold the customer a prepaid device, and when you're ringing it up, you ring up month to month. The difference on commission between those two things isn't very much, but there's a difference. So if you notice that your device is a month to month or your device is a prepaid and you're having trouble finding the contract, your next step would be to look up that sale or that customer and verify that it is a new contract, a new service. If you sold something like an ESN change or a hardware only sale, which is another thing that absolutely can happen, something that we do, is sell customers hardware at cost or a little above cost. If you do that, that's perfectly acceptable, but you need to go into our Q4 and refund the sale that includes commissions for a commissionable service, either an upgrade, an activation, a new prepaid. If you don't have one of those, if you return the sale and ring it up as hardware, you'll still get paid and there's still commission owed there. It's just not exactly the same.
One of the things to stress is that there is no such thing as a prepaid upgrade. Somebody who currently has a prepaid line of service with a prepaid number on the Verizon network is buying a hardware-only sale of that prepaid device, if that's what you are doing. Which means...
Even though there is a code on RQ for prepaid upgrade, there is no such thing. It's not really there.
Correct. Yeah, our parent company doesn't recognize upgrades to prepaid devices as a new upgrade, is what Ed is saying there. You guys don't follow. We actually do not get paid from our parent company in situations where we sell devices like that.
I have a contract up on the screen right now, James. Can you tell me where, or not a contract, it's an invoice from RQ. Can you point out where the actual contract number is on that invoice? How it's labeled?
It's you. I don't know if I can you scroll a little bit?
Down or
up or down?
Scroll up.
Scroll up, yeah.
Scroll up, okay, hang on a second here. Further? There you go. Contract details.
Yeah, right here. Yep.
So when you're asking them for contracts, this is where they go into RQ. They pull up the invoice, and this is where they find them.
Right. And when you're looking at your invoice, if you look down here and the contract number is not a 9-digit number, it is wrong. They're all uniform. They're all going to be the same length. Your stores, they'll probably all start with the same couple of similar numbers also. But if that's a phone number, that is exactly the reason why our parent company won't pay us commissions, because that is the contract number they use from the Omni information. So that is the first step. When you're looking up these issues that I've sent you, whether it's for a device that I don't have a contract at all, or a device where the contract information I have is lower than what our parent company says it should be, this is where you should start. Is you should find your invoice for that customer, you should find your contract number, and using Omni, without even accessing the customer's account, you can still search by application number. You can search by phone number also, or name. You can search by this number, this contract, and it will allow you to pull up and see that contract for that day for that customer, even if they're not in the store and you don't have access to their account. When you do this, if for some reason you don't notice a contract, that is the bigger problem. That is what we're trying to solve here, is making sure that all of the contracts go to our parent company the way that they're supposed to. In that situation where you have an incorrect contract number or you can't find one, you may absolutely reach out to me over this office phone number, or reach out to me at my email, jstevens@jazztech, and I will look into that with you, and we can work on finding out if something happened on our end or if something happened on Core's end, and we can call Verizon and resolve that. But this is the biggest information, is this contract number When those are not correct, the sales automatically default to us not getting paid.
Okay, so first step they generally get from you is looking for a contract. This is where they look for the contract numbers, correct? By going on the invoice.
Right, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
is that basically about 80% of the issues that we have?
Yeah, that is a big majority of them, is that the contract information that we submit through RQ4 does not match what our parent company has on their end. This is the biggest part of it.
Okay. So if they supply you with this contract information, the contract number, for the moment their part of that job is done, or do they need to go on and do something else once they find a contract number?
If you find a valid contract number and the contract contains the sale that you're referencing, the sale that I asked for you, if you find that device on that contract and a valid contract number, that is all I need from you.
And if they don't find
physical contract. If you don't find it, that is when we lead into the next step, where it could be an issue that the sale did not have a contract because it was not a renewal or an upgrade. It was not an activation. Or it could be a situation where we did something in Omni and the contract didn't go through properly. I know everyone's had a situation where the computer acts up and you're not sure if you've finalized all the paperwork. In a situation like that, the contract number might not populate. But in either of those cases, if you can't find the contract number, you need to reach out to me so we can try to figure out if we're supposed to have a contract number, and if we are, where do we get it from? In a situation like this where you have a sale that I've asked you for a contract, you use the contract number from RQ4, but you cannot find anything to match you in Omni, we can reach out to Verizon and ask them to look into that sale. We can ask our account managers or ask someone higher up to find those. If you have a sale and it's for a prepaid or a month-to-month device, a Home Phone Connect, a Hum, anything that you could sell on a contract, if you have a sale like that and you don't see a contract number, a lot of times those are devices that we did not have a contract for. Those are prepaid upgrades or hardware-only sales. But for almost all of these, for device payment sales especially, you should have a valid contract. We shouldn't be selling devices without having sold the device in Omni as well. So more often than not, you won't be unable to find a contract. You might just have a different contract than the one that we submitted in RQ. And those are fine too. If we know the contract number, I need you guys to send me that contract and to notate that on the report I give you. Hey, sent to James on this date. This is the new contract number. But yeah, that doesn't happen very often, where you shouldn't be able to find a contract at all. If you cannot find the contract, that more than likely means we didn't have one, and it's a hardware sale or an upgrade.
Okay, so to reiterate, not just contacting you, but also making sure they note on the form, on the document that you've sent them, that they've contacted you regarding it, and even putting the information on there. So are there any other, what are the other major things that they're going to be you're going to contact them about, beyond this being like 80% of the problem? Because we've gone, about half an hour almost here now, so we want to make sure, we get the information concise and to the point.
I mean, those are the biggest ones: getting the contract correct, and then if the contract is not correct, getting me the correct contract. And if you cannot find the correct contract, correcting the sale, I think would be the next one. Those are the big ones, really, of just helping me locate the contracts and getting a physical, getting proof that we have it, getting a physical contract there.
And correcting the sale, is that a process, Ed, that everybody has access to being able to do, or is this something they're going to have to run through their manager?
It's going to depend on the specific sales issue. Mm-hmm. Doing a full refund and re-ring, everyone should be able to do, provided it is within the 14-day period, which it should be by the time we catch these.
Right, absolutely.
Removing a line item, like an extra TMP, may require a manager to override.
It's critical we get these done within the 14 days, though, folks. Okay, because when we get outside that 14 days, our ease of doing this, our ease of correcting, and our ease of getting the proper data all expire at that 14-day point. Things become much more difficult at that time. So what's critical here is if we walk away with one message here, it would be the fact that you really need to review the information that's being sent to you on the report as soon as possible. You need to go online and onto the RQ and find a contract number if a contract number is missing as soon as possible. You need to return that information to James as soon as possible, even if you can't find something. The fact you can't find a contract is just as important, if not more important, to communicate as finding one. So don't just go in and say, well, I couldn't find it, so I didn't do anything about it. That doesn't help solve the process. And most importantly, is keeping on top of it. That we do these on a timely basis. If you have any questions regarding them, feel free to contact James. Feel free to contact Ed and your manager and your DM, and they'll help you correct them. But the key point is we need to do these on time in order for you to get paid on time, and in order for us to get paid on time as well. So, it's a very important issue. I hope we've been able to explain some of the details here for it. If nothing else, we've stressed the fact that you can look on RQ, you can find a contract number, but the most important thing to start with is making sure we were using the integrated services, that we're not manually interrupting the services from the beginning, because when we go automatic, when we go on full auto, we make much, much less errors than we do if we go in and intervene in any way, shape, or form. So, integrated services using the integrated system, it's there for a reason, and it makes things much easier. Any other comments from you two?
No, I think so.
I'm good.
Okay, folks, thanks for joining us, and hopefully if you have any questions, you know where to get more information from at this point in time. Thanks.